So why is the Occupy movement being repressed?
The repression of the Occupy movement is an act of censorship. Personally, I think it was a mistake on the part of the authorities. They would have been better off just trying to let the thing die out, but they got worried that too many people were hearing Occupy's message, and they decided to crack down with force to silence the movement. If you get a large group of people together so that attention is paid and the issues are discussed, they whack you in the head with a baton. That has to stop. That's why this issue is so important. I have personally never before been out on the street with Occupy. I chose this day to do it for the first time because I understand the vital importance of this issue. Censorship by brute force is about as important as it gets, because how can you even have a discussion on the other issues if you let that stand?
It's not very democratic, is it?
It isn't. It isn't.
And here they are trying to spread democracy throughout the world. They can't even hold an election here.
Exactly.
So
we're not as different from Egypt as we would like to think we are.
Or as free. We like to think we're more free than some of the countries, and we're not. We're actually have less freedom.
In some ways, yes. There's one sign that was in the original Occupy, I believe, that quoted supposedly from Goethe that none are so hopelessly enslaved as those who erroneously believe that they are free. That's many Americans, I'm afraid. We're kidding ourselves. Time to stop kidding yourself.
Thank you for your statement, sir.
Welcome.
Do you have an organization you'd like to represent?
Not other than Occupy itself. I actually, as I say, this is the first time I've physically been out on the street in support of Occupy. That's how important I think this issue is. Do not let the suppression of Occupy by brutal police force stand.
Have you watched current TV?
Occasionally, yes.
Olbermann, the Young Turks, Amy Goodman, those are our allies. Glenn, the Salon.com, yeah. Pick for the winners. Our message is getting out.
Scott, is there anything that you can think of in the veterans community that you want to talk about as a veteran that's been...
Well, with his tough reference to the question I stressing him, I'd like to see somehow the reference. There was a study done a while back ago on how the cannabinoids help reduce the effects of post-traumatic stress disorder. It's like it actually proves, is that we have less night terrors, we have less, flashbacks, we have less all-around problems due to medicinal cannabis.
I like you in the tie. Very cute. How do you love that? Because if we look at where the problem started, it started with the prohibition of cannabis, of marijuana, whichever. If you want to use the Latin term or the Latino term, it doesn't matter to me. But we have some work to do. We have to thank Tom Amiano for entering something for medical cannabis. So I'm going to have a card and we're going to sign a thank you to Tom tonight. But the other folks we need to thank are the Repeal 2012 campaign. And I hope you're all going to help me repeal prohibition. Is anybody going to help us? So before we're getting everybody settled in here, we have a speaker here tonight. And he's an awesome guy. His office actually wrote out my first recommendation for medical cannabis. He's been in the medical cannabis movement, but now he's going to introduce us to a campaign he's working on, a state ballot initiative. And I'm hoping that if you're feeling it, before we get to our awesome meal, that we can all sign on and make sure that this ballot initiative, you'll be able to vote for it. And it's going to take some effort. So if you have volunteer time and you'd like to help gather signatures.
I will.
You will?
I will.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Aww.
You're going to volunteer for that? Awesome. Oh, my God. You guys are awesome. All the way in the back, the youngsters are raising their hands. Me and the old ladies over here are raising our hands. We're ready to go. So I want you guys to give a big he can shout like I can, but he probably doesn't, so let's be really quiet.
So, I'm one of the co-authors of the Repeal Cannabis Prohibition Act of 2012, and we have only less than 2 months to get all the signatures that we need to get it on the ballot, and if we don't get them, we're going to keep fighting until we get prohibition repealed. What's different about ours is it's true repeal. We just repeal all the criminal laws against marijuana for adults, and then we make sure that, we also have a clause in there that no rights under Prop 215 or Senate Bill 420 would be diminished, so patient rights will still be protected. The best thing for patient rights is going to be repealing all the criminal prohibition. Obviously, this does not repeal it federally. That's going to have to be another struggle. But New York, the state of New York dropped out of, they repealed prohibition of alcohol in 1923, 10 years before prohibition fell. So after that, for those last 10 years, the federal government had to do all its own enforcement in New York, and they weren't able to, and eventually prohibition fell of its own weight. So, again, what ours does is it repeals all the criminal prohibitions on cannabis conduct for adults 19 and over. We chose 19 because it keeps it out of high school. It still sends a message that it's safer than alcohol.
Yeah.
It still mandates strict rules against unlawful distribution to or by minors and against driving while impaired. Now, we didn't say anything about drug testing, because drug testing for cannabis does not tell anything about impairment. All that proves is that you're medicated in the last 30 days. So what we put is impairment is defined as being unable to operate a vehicle with the care and caution of a sober person.
Because you smoked something sleepy.
Jury instructions in DUI cases. So it's really going to be no different than alcohol, except with at least alcohol, there's some correlation between a blood test and the impairment, even though obviously it's different from person to person. And again, it maintains the medical rights for patients and caregivers, and it vests the newly created California Cannabis Commission with regulation of commercial cannabis, but that's only amounts above 3 pounds. So personal use is 3 pounds or less. When you make your own beer, they don't say you can make a 6-pack or a case, they say you can make 100 gallons. That makes sense. 1 ounce, like Prop 19, which I only reluctantly supported, really wasn't very good. An ounce was, people need to be able to buy in quantity when they can. So those are the main things I wanted to say. So I have the petitions. You need to be a registered voter. If you're not a registered voter, I do have voter registration forms. And then when you do sign the registration form, the petition, it has to be done by county. So I have several. So if you're in San Francisco County, it'll be a certain sheet.
We're going to walk around and get everybody's signature, and it's going to take a moment. But let me tell you, it is so worth it to get this on the ballot.
I, being a person of color, came to the realization that more and more people of color end up with 850 Bryant than, say, other people that are not of color. And I'm not just talking African Americans. I'm talking African Americans,
poor people,
Spanish, Filipino,
poor people,
Native Americans. Our statistics are the greatest of people in the jailhouse. And one of the reasons why it's like that is because some of the crimes that people commit are being non-informed.
She didn't get one.
Okay? The person that lets that peeing on the street ticket escalate into a warrant and ends up with 850 Bryant. That's nothing but money for them. And that's nothing but time and effort for us. And don't be displaced. Don't be displaced, because you're going to get up in there quicker than if you did have the place. So what I'm trying to tell you guys right now is there is an organization that exists. It's Black and Brown Just Campus House. We try to meet every last Thursday of the month. at 1260 Mission Street. I encourage you guys to come on out. It's a great time had by all. And if you want to make a difference and you identify with being a person of color, and I think everybody in here is a person of color. And if you're not a person of color, reach in your pocket right now. And if you have more money in your pocket than you had at the end of this month, then you're doing good. There's way more money at the end of the money, if you understand what I'm talking about. So if you identify with that, y'all, come on out. All right? Thank you. This possession, the lowest priority here in San Francisco. So if anybody out there is getting harassed because of your medicine use and you're not documented so far as having a doctor's recommendation, please, I like to hear about it. But I say nothing about us without us, y'all. So get involved, get active. I told you once again, I would stand for Black and Brown Discannabis policy. It's not just for those of color. Is on campus.
10 students arrested on CCS campus.
Are facing federal charges for bringing an illicit drug onto federal campuses. So right now, I've been in communications with CCSF, with a couple of the treasury, or the trustee board, a couple of representatives from the student government, and they've actually said that they will fight this in federal court based on that these students did have a cannabis card and can use it. So we are making some steps in the student field with medical cannabis, but it is still a long road to go.
I want to also remind y'all, if you are students and you're interested in being able to have cannabis on campus, whether it's at UC Berkeley or San Francisco State or any of those schools, our next meeting will be held on the 8th. We're not sure where exactly it's going to be, but it'll be on the 8th from 6 to 7.
Derek has been working with patients in the task force over the entire year. He's been doing the work. He's been meeting with us every legal committee, making sure the agenda's there, taking everybody's legal questions and being extremely fair to everyone. Not to mention, he was the attorney that had the largest return of medicinal cannabis to a collective in the city's history. I think we need him as the point person. What do you think? So, I'm going to put a little something on the agenda. I am a legal committee member, and I'd love your support on Friday for Derek St. Pierre. I believe he's definitely a Mardi Gras descendant, so, and I just want to remind people that every third Friday is the Medical Cannabis Task Force. You're only going to have this task force for another 8 sessions, and then it sunsets, and our chances of getting re-legislated are next to nil. So if you want to participate in a very short-lived cannabis government within your own city government, please come up and witness these historical proceedings. And it's really important that patients speak out. Otherwise, all it becomes is a merchant's board. And I need your help with that. I need to see your faces there.